Welcome to Cody in the Cinema. Today I'm discussing two underrated films directed by the great director Robert Altman, and I have long been a fan of McCabe and Mrs. Miller here. This is my favorite of his, with Warren Beatty and Julie Christie. My VHS and my Criterion. My Criterion there. Man. So let's talk about another Western he did. And I think McCabe and Mrs. Miller sometimes overshadows this other one. And McCabe and Mrs. Miller is a better film, but that having been said, you should see the first of my two recommendations. Kind of a long title here, so bear with me. Buffalo Bill and the Indians, or Sitting Bull's History Lesson, 1976, starring Paul Newman, of all people, as Buffalo Bill. And I take Western trips every so often. If you follow my channel, I'll talk about going to places like Wyoming and Colorado and so forth from Virginia. I take these awesome road trips. And I actually picked up this old, I think this is an old Kentucky bourbon bottle that says Buffalo Bill. And I've had this a long time, 1846 to 1917. So there's your time frame. And this little bottle has a description of the subject matter at hand. Buffalo Bill, King of the Wild West. On the back it says, Frontier Scout, Pony Express Rider. That one's debatable. Indian Fighter, Buffalo Hunter, Stagecoach Driver, Actor and Producer, the greatest showman the world has ever known. And so much of this film is about showmanship. And what Buffalo Bill did, I'm just going to talk loosely here. He tried to assemble this sort of, you don't really want to call it a carnival, but this traveling show that would teach people in an entertaining way about certain Western themes, pieces of history, and so forth. For example, in the show and the film, you see Annie Oakley, who was a really good sharpshooter, make incredible shots with her gun. That part of the film is really interesting. And there's actually silent film that has survived of that. I've watched it before. It's really cool. But the actress who plays Annie Oakley does a really good job with that character. And she's very sympathetic to the Native Americans in the film. And they are, to me, the stars of the film in some ways. They, they kind of outflank and outsmart Paul Newman as Buffalo Bill. He's a little bit, he's awesome as Buffalo Bill, and it's neat to watch him get sort of outclassed here by people who know what they're doing better. And I love that part of the film. It's not really Sitting Bull's history lesson. It's actually Buffalo Bill's history lesson in some ways. But he's entertaining. He's likable. Other parts of the show, there's riding horses, and there's a part where the president of the United States comes in, and that part of the film, that last 30 minutes, is really good. That part of the film is great. With Shelley Duvall as the First Lady, kind of underused in the film. Harvey Keitel has a small role. There's all these different characters that you see in the film, and I think the actual look of the film is amazing. It will put you right there in that time period with these beautiful costumes and set pieces, and it looks darn good. Two reasons I think this film isn't as popular as McCabe and Mrs. Miller, another revisionist Western, is one, it's not this film. This film is a masterpiece. This film has a good sense of how to scale its conflict and how to introduce us to different characters at the right time and give us reasons to care about all of the actions, and it has the world building. Now, Buffalo Bill, there's a part of this film where the conflict really is supposed to be kind of, I think, twofold. One, we're seeing inside of Buffalo Bill and his loneliness and this sense of, almost like Al Swearingen in the Deadwood series. He's almost supposed to be a little bit like that. But that doesn't quite translate all the time, and he's also supposed to be in this like kind of rivalry with Sitting Bull, trying to get him involved with the show. But that never really quite pans out the right way, and it just gets a little dull because those stakes aren't brought to the forefront, and they aren't, I don't want to say obvious enough, but it's just tougher to get invested in the way the film presents the material. And I do think that a lot of people kind of get bogged down in that middle, despite how pretty the film is and, how otherwise it's really good. The humor isn't for everybody either. The humor can be really dry. And, it's also like dealing with a lot of sensitive subject matter. And I think that there's some black comedy in there. And I could also see somebody not liking sort of, they might think that Buffalo Bill is actually treated like an idiot. I don't. I just think he gets outmaneuvered by Sitting Bull and Sitting Bull's interpreter or friend. I'm not exactly sure of that relationship. I've only seen the film once, but that part was very engaging to me. The Native American actors did an awesome job, and I love that kind of representation in the film, and I think it's a lot better for it. So overall, what you have is you have a really pretty Western. Western's a lot of fun to watch in places. It's just not an even 5 out of 5 picture. And I probably would watch it again, but like I said, it does have some parts that I don't think are paced as well as others. And, you know, you can think about Altman and talk about his pacing in other films, but there's just something kind of missing in that conflict in the middle. That having been said, though, I do recommend seeing it. And I've thought about it every day since I watched it. Just the visual style. And I really liked it, if nothing else for that reason. So if you're into Westerns, you do need to check it out. I think Indicator has a copy. I looked at maybe getting a copy of it. But that's the first one of my recommendations. And I think I might actually go back by Cody, Wyoming this year when I'm going back toward Yellowstone or on the way back from it. The second film, and this film's a little better. This is like great rainy day afternoon film. This is from 1969, totally different vibe here. This is called That Cold Day in the Park. Sandy Dennis, Michael Burns, in a small, really contained film. I mean, the Buffalo Bill film, most of it does take place just right there at where the show is happening and where the people live in their camp. This isn't that different. Most of this film takes place in an apartment. So this woman, Frances, she's obviously has some money. We don't know where all that came from or why, and we don't know the extent of her history. But we get the sense she's kind of lonely or alone, and she has friends that maybe come in and out of her life or visit her and so forth. But she's in this apartment, and one night she sees this young man, looks like maybe an older teenager, and it's raining outside, and he's on this bench alone. And she goes and gets him and invites him in, dries his clothes out, and a lot of the film is this cat and mouse between these two characters. At first, he's not speaking, and we see in the film, will he speak? If he does, what will he say? Does he have a disability? And we're left with lots of questions very early on, and a lot of little intriguing conflicts are thrown out there. And the film goes a few places I didn't expect. There is a sibling in this film. I'm not going to tell you for which character. That part of the film I found to be extraordinarily interesting and daring. What happens with that? So look out for the sibling plot line. And there's another part of the film that deals with this like seedy underground of the city. That was my favorite part, and the way that that's incorporated into these two characters' lives felt pretty epic in a way to me. This is a quietly devastating, creepy film at times, and it's going to remind you of a few other things you've maybe seen before, but what's so good is these two actors playing off of each other, because like I said, like, think about, you know, he's going to the apartment, he's not even talking. And so there's just a lot that is all on the actors. It might give you some Hitchcock vibes a little bit, depending on how many movies you've seen from him. And I just really, really liked it. Like I said, I think it's a great film if it's, you know, rainy Sunday afternoon. Watch it with somebody who likes those kind of movies. I'm not really that big of a mystery fan a lot of the time, but the mysteries in this film are kind of second to the character development, and I really like that. And I was entranced the whole way through, and I really like how it used the bathtub. There's a bathtub that's used in the film, I think, really effectively and meaningfully, and how it can be kind of symbolic. And I just really, really liked it. It probably, for me, it was close to one of the better films I've seen recently that wasn't like, you know, one of the legendary titles like this one. I talk about stuff like this, you know, that's better known a lot of the time. But I do think it's really underrated from Altman. Both of these films had really mixed reviews. When I looked on Letterboxd, I looked on Rotten Tomatoes, kind of mixed thoughts on there, but I do think they're both worth seeing. So let me know in the comments what your favorite Robert Altman film is, or if you have a good suggestion for something that you think people have missed from that director. I've been looking through his filmography lately and enjoying it. Click the thumbs up for me if you wouldn't mind. Help grow the channel and subscribe if you haven't. To Cody in the Cinema.